Angrimastakam.
Angrimastakam.
From the feet up to the top of the head.
From the feet up to the top of the head.
Apurnaha.
Apurnaha.
Fully decorated.
Fully decorated.
Tulasi Navadamabhaki.
Tulasi Navadamabhi.
With garlands of fresh tulasi leaves.
Garlands of fresh tulasi leaves.
Komalahai.
Komalai.
Tender.
Tender.
Soft.
Soft.
Sarvagatreshu.
Sarvagatreshu.
On all the limbs of the body.
On all the limbs of the body.
Buri punyavat arpitahai.
Buri punyavat arpitai.
Which were offered by devotees engaged.
Which were offered by devotees engaged.
In the greatest pious activity.
In the greatest pious activity.
Worshipping the Supreme Lord by.
Worshipping the Supreme Lord by.
Hearing, chanting, and so on.
Hearing, chanting, and so on.
So, translation. Every part of their bodies, from their feet to the top of their heads, was fully decorated with fresh, tender garlands of tulasi leaves offered by devotees engaged in worshiping the Lord by the greatest pious activities, namely hearing and chanting. So you can repeat, every part of their bodies.
Every part of their bodies.
From their feet to the top of their heads.
From their feet to the top of their heads.
Was fully decorated with.
Was fully decorated with.
Fresh, tender garlands.
Fresh, tender garlands.
Of tulasi leaves.
Of tulasi leaves.
Offered by devotees engaged.
Offered by devotees engaged.
In worshiping the Lord.
In worshiping the Lord.
By the greatest pious activities.
By the greatest pious activities.
Namely, hearing and chanting.
Namely, hearing and chanting.
So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The word Buri, Punyavad, Arpitahai is significant in this verse. These forms of Vishnu were worshipped by those who had performed pious activities, Sukritipihi, for many births, and who were constantly engaged in devotional service, Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnaho. Bhakti devotional service is the engagement of those who have performed highly developed pious activities. The accumulation of pious activities has already been mentioned elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 12th chapter, text 11, where Shukadeva Goswami says, Itam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradvaivatena maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vijaru krita punya punjaha. Those who are engaged in self-realization, appreciating the Brahmana effulgence of the Lord, and those engaged in devotional service, accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, as well as those who are under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord an ordinary person, cannot understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as coward boys. In our Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, there's a tamal tree that covers an entire corner of the courtyard. Before there was a temple, the tree was lying neglected, but now it has developed very luxuriantly, covering the whole corner of the courtyard. This is a sign of Buddhi Kunja. So, Angrim Astakam Apurnas Tulasina Vadamabahi O Komalai Sarvagatreshu Buddhi Punya Vadarpitahai. So, Omagana Timiranda Shah Garanjana Shlakya Chakshur Viditam Yena Tasmai Shikara. So Bhagavad Gita says, Yesham Antagatam Babam Inanam Punya Karmanam Tedwandva Moha Janti Mam Tridavrata. A very interesting verse which pretty much says similar things to that which is being described in the purport by Srila Prabhupada in this verse. That Yesham Twantagatam Papam, that in order to engage in the Lord's service in a steady fashion, Twantagatam Papam, one has to come to the end of Papam. Papam means not your father. Although it's an interesting story, there was one devotee who came to Srila Prabhupada, and he said to Srila Prabhupada that Srila Prabhupada, actually this was Sesru Maharaj, he said, Srila Prabhupada, my parents said that they won't talk to me again if I remain as a devotee. And Prabhupada basically said, that's okay. I mean, in other circumstances, Prabhupada was a little bit different, but what can you do, And one time there was a little boy, this is interesting too, it was in Los Angeles, and the father had taken him outside of Krishna consciousness, and the little boy was at the temple, and Prabhupada asked, why are you not in Krishna consciousness, basically? And he said, my father took me out. And Prabhupada said, who is your father? And the boy was shocked. And then the boy gave the right answer. He said, you are, Prabhupada. Then you're going back. Anyway, that's interesting. Anyway, so that's talking about Papa. But anyway, in this particular context, Papa means sin. So, Yesham Twantagatam Papam. One must come to the end of sin. In other words, not be committing any more sin. Jananam Punya Karmanam. And must be engaged, not only coming to the end of sin. It's not simply you're a blank slate. But you have to be engaged in Punya Karmanam. Punya can mean various things. And it means pious, but it really doesn't indicate just mundane piety. Although, to take up Krishna consciousness, one does have to cultivate the mode of goodness. So in one sense you can say, well, you should be at least mundanely pious. At least mode of goodness, at least be a vegetarian, at least be kind to others, control your anger, don't sleep too much, don't eat too much, like that. So, because the mode of goodness is the jumping point from which one can take up Krishna consciousness. It is true. Sometimes the example I give is that the mode of goodness is like the airport, that you can take a plane from the airport. But in and of itself, going to the airport, like nowadays, of course, sometimes you can just go shopping in the airport. Some airports actually are now becoming open even to those who are not traveling, and people just go and they shop and do all sorts of things. Many years ago, the airports didn't have any shops in it. Now they're just like filled with liquor stores and meat stores and everything like that. Anyway, if you go to the airport, if you want to get somewhere, you got to get on a plane. But at least you got to go to the airport, because planes usually don't take off from the road here. Although, I guess they could do it. When I was young, we landed a plane on the road, not here, but in the Bahamas when I was with my father. But generally, you got to go to the airport. So anyway, Yesham Twandakatam Papam, Jananam Punya Karmanam. Those persons, Jananam of those persons, Punya Karmanam, have to execute Punya, of course, means pious activities or devotional service, and Karmanam means activities. Karma. Karma can mean your reaction. Karma can mean an activity. Karma can mean pious activities. And vikarma means impious activities. So anyway, one has to come to the end of impious activities, at least. And jananam punya karmanam, and be engaged in pious activities, or Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, one cannot understand Krishna. Of course, there's also that important verse in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that no one will be attracted to the pastimes of Krishna unless they're actually pashugnat, if they're giving up meat eating, killers of the animals. Nivritta tarshar. Upagiyamana vavoshra shrotra mano biramat. Ka uttama shloka gunanavadat. Puman vidajeta vina pashugnat. Similar statement. It says, Nivritta tarshar, if you want to get rid of the miseries, upagiyamana, then you have to engage in hearing about Krishna. The same thing is mentioned here, like Shravanam Kirtanam, so Shotram Mano Bidamad. It's very pleasing to the mind. And one hears about what? Uttama Shloka, transcendental verses about Krishna, Gunan Vadat, that describe his qualities. And those who are impious, Puman, those Puman Vidajeta, those who are impious, like Pashugnat, who are killers of animals, killers of the soul, they cannot understand Krishna. So here, we're talking about not only understanding Krishna, the verse I quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, Bhajanti Mam Tridavrata, but actually worshiping Krishna with determination. That's really important. Because worshiping Krishna with determination is a very high level of devotional service. One has to be free of anarthas. Just like we have the different steps in devotional service, and then after that, nishta. In other words, that's what it means. Nishta, being steady. Right now, we are not so steady in devotional service. Sometimes we're worshiping Krishna, and sometimes we're attracted by Maya, or I wouldn't say worshiping Maya, but we're engaged in other activities. Of course, I guess it's better than, let's say, having one day a week that's spiritual, like Sunday. Just like there was a movie many years ago, it was called Never on Sunday. It was about a prostitute who was impious the rest of the week, and on Sunday she was pious. She was God-fearing. She went to church. So, or like even the Jewish religion, they have their Saturday. There's Sabbath is actually Saturday. That's more bona fide, in fact. If you actually study the Bible, you'll understand that the Sabbath day is Saturday, not Sunday. Sunday was taken up because it happened to be the day that people were worshiping the sun god. And they adopted the pagan culture. Just like Easter, they were worshiping Oestre, a pagan fertility goddess. Or Christmas time is actually when the winter solstice is. So, these are all like pagan holidays, like that. So anyway, so in the Jewish religion, they have Saturday, and Saturday they're just supposed to be worshiping God, and it's become very ritualistic, actually, because they're not supposed to engage in any work, including turning on the lights. So they actually hire someone. They hire someone who's not Jewish to turn on the lights and, I guess, use the remote control on the TV. But they don't understand the whole purpose of it is to dedicate yourself to God that one day, not simply stop turning on the lights. It's kind of funny. It's just like using someone else to do your nonsense activities instead of doing it yourself, and therefore you're observing Sabbath. I'm sure some of you have heard about that before. Anyway, so that's one day a week. But actually that's not Bhajanti Mam Dridavrata. Bhajanti Mam Dridavrata means with determination, fixed determination. Of course, mode of goodness is helpful for that too. And it's described in the Bhagavad Gita, determination in the three modes of nature. So determination in the mode of goodness, it's fixed in yoga, In material goodness, it's fixed in wanting to become liberated. In spiritual goodness, it's described by Lord Kapila as like spontaneous. It's like the Ganges water, the waters of the rivers flow spontaneously into the ocean. So that's spiritual goodness. In other words, one's mind spontaneously goes to Krishna. That's a high level of devotional service. Because right now, our mind spontaneously goes to Maya. If I stop preaching about Krishna consciousness, it goes into Donald Trump or something like that. To Maya, no, not really. Hopefully not. Because then we'll take a very bad birth in our next life. But anyway, and so someone who's advanced, even if they try to think of Maya, the mind goes to Krishna. And someone who's not so advanced, even if they try to think of Krishna, the mind goes to Maya. So you can tell how advanced you are by that particular test. Try to think of Krishna and see what happens. And then try to think of Maya. But you don't have to try. It's spontaneous. Try to think of Maya. Try to think of some, whatever happen to be your flavor of Maya. So anyway, but that's determination in the mode of goodness. And determination in the mode of passion is also very determined, a person in the mode of passion, according to Krishna in the Gita. Because one is very determined to make money. It's like when I was young, my father was very determined to make money. He woke up early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Just like I can't get the devotees to wake up early in the morning, because I'm not going to describe what mode. But anyway, I can't get the devotees to wake up, but my father was up early, and he wasn't chanting his rounds. He wasn't going to Mangalarti. He wanted money. And he was successful. It's a fact. There's that interesting video that pretty much shows that successful people, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I actually sent a link to that video to many devotees. They get up at 4 in the morning, or before. You better believe that people like Elon Musk and other people like that, not that you should follow their footsteps, you better believe that they're up early. You better believe they're not getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can guarantee. And then you better believe they're getting by on very little sleep at night. My father got very little sleep. So someone who is actually successful in the material world gets very little. Of course, that's in the mode of passion, because they want money. Their greed is unlimited. Money, 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 money. Or they want something else, other than money, because money is a means to get something. And then the mode of ignorance, determination, basically never goes beyond dreaming and procrastination. Tomorrow I'll get to it. God bless you. Gesundheit. Tomorrow I'll get to it. You hear this all the time. You see things. Tomorrow I'll get to it. Send a disciple a message. We'll do it soon, Guru Maharaj. So okay. And sometimes I have to do it myself, because tomorrow never comes. So that's determination. So you know what mode you have determination in by those particular dynamics. If you're always putting things off, if you're late for things. For example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I always mention this to the devotees, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was always on time. In fact, he actually regulated the deity worship in Jagannath Puri to extreme punctuality. I remember when we first started the temple here, I would stand outside of the deity room with a watch or whatever, and just like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blow the conch. You know, extreme punctuality to the second. And of course, we're pretty good at that here. I think the devotees, I have to commend them, that the artis are always usually on time. And I was just in New Orleans, and it's always late. And I'm just always, I hate to say it, not always, but generally getting very upset. You know, because I come into the temple room, I said, when are we greeting the deities? Well, it's supposed to be at 7:30, but, you know, maybe 7, and it's not a festival day. You know, the punctuality is very important. Probably punctuality, cleanliness, and good bhoga being offered to the deities, so the standard of deity worship that we want. So anyway, in the mode of goodness, one is extremely punctual. Prabhupada always wore a watch. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a pocket watch because they didn't have wrist watches at that particular juncture. What to speak of electronic watches? They didn't have, but he's very, very punctual. And you read his schedule; it's really amazing. That at a certain time he gets up, you know, like 10 o'clock at night. Takes rest at 8. Gets up at 10. You know, that's punctuality. And what does he do at 10? He writes all night long, writes, and there's chanting, and at a certain time he eats 2 chapatis and a quart of milk. At a certain time he goes to court. He gets everything done like a normal judge's work. He gets done in a half a day. Goes home. You know, he's home at 5. There's some writing, correspondence. And you know, that's not his exact schedule, but anyway, so it's always very punctual and regulated, because regulation is part of punctuality. That's mode of goodness. So, if one is in that mode of goodness, then Vajanti Mam Judavrata. So he's on the platform of Nishta. Nishta, you know, that's the description of Nishta, that worships Krishna with determination. And Anishta means, yes, we worship Krishna. Let's say we have a nice program, Sadhu Sangha. Everybody rushes to Sadhu Sangha. Jai, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. And then after it's all over, you know, that's their one recharge for the year. Or maybe they have 2 or 3 recharges. Like a festival junkie. You know, it's better than nothing. But one's Krishna consciousness is shown by regulation. Like Prabhupada was extremely regulated too. You know, Prabhupada would go on his morning walk at a certain time in the morning, come back just to greet the deities. And it's interesting that Prabhupada's Bhagavatam classes were always, or generally, about the same amount of time. I mean, if you listen to it, it's about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. You know, he didn't give a class for like 3 hours. You know, it was just extremely regulated, and Prabhupada would eat at a certain time, etc., like that. So regulation is extremely mitchahara viharasha. That's what it means to be moderate in one's life, and that's mode of goodness. So anyway, so punya karmana vajanti mam. Okay, thank you. Vajanti mam dridavrata. In this way, one can become determined. Also, part of maintaining oneself in the mode of goodness is to eat food in the mode of goodness, to have association in the mode of goodness, to listen to music in the mode of goodness, you know, transcendental music, hopefully, Hare Krishna music. That's actually part of maintaining that determination. So we'll talk about Vajanti, Yesham Twandakatam Papa, Jnananam Punya Karmanam. That means that one's association, one has to keep that association. It's not that one comes to an end of sin and then it remains determined, But one has to always be careful about keeping the right association so the determination continues. And that association is, getting back to this verse here, Shravanam and Kirtanam. And of course there's Navabhakti. Navabhakti is Shravanam Kirtan, Vishnu Smaranam, etc. And all the items of bhakti, the 9 items of bhakti, up to the ultimate of Atmani Vedanam, are dependent upon Shravanam. Shushushro Shravananasya Vasudeva Katarachi Janmahat Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevanat. And one's advancement is determined or understood by how much one has ruchi for the Shravanam process. Shushusham. So how ruchi means a taste. For Shravanam, for hearing about Krishna, hearing about Krishna's activities, hearing about Krishna's philosophy, hearing about Krishna's devotees, and this is Shushushro Shradanasya Vasudeva Katha Ruchi Shanmahat Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevanat. And if one doesn't have a taste, then something's going wrong. Not Padiyad Yadiratim Shama Eva Kevalam Dharma Swanastha Pumsam Vishaksena Gadas. Not Padiyad Yadiratim Shama Eva Kevalam. That if one is working really hard, but is not attaining the taste, then something's going wrong. It's like Shama Eva Kevalam means, what is the, he's wasting his time. Not because he's wasting, because there may be some Agyata Sakriti there. So how do you get a taste? First of all, you get a taste for hearing and chanting by hearing from the right person, Satam Prasangam, Mamavirya Sambhado. And secondly, when you're hearing, being attentive and Bhavanti Ritkarna, Rasayana Kata, taking the sound vibration into your heart while you're hearing. Just like this morning, I was making an offering to the deities, to my deities. My deities, that's interesting. Like I possess Krishna. It's kind of silly. Anyway, making an offering to my Shilas this morning. And I was saying the prayers. And that's Kirtanam, of course, but also I was Shravanam, listening to them. And while I was doing it, I was attempting to really, let's say, take the prayers to the heart. What does that mean? You have to know what the prayers mean to take them to the heart. Otherwise, it's just rituals. Like sometimes you go to the church, they just, genuflect. Or, anyway, sometimes like if someone sneezes, you say, God bless you, but you're not even meaning it. It's just like an automatic thing. Or you happen to be speaking a little German, you say, Gesundheit. Or, what is it in Yiddish, Mother Krishna? Gesundheit. Anyway, whatever. She can translate class for me. So anyway, you don't really think about it. You just say, God bless you. But you're not thinking, may God bless you. You're just saying it, right? I mean, we're like that so many times. Nice to meet you. Shake someone's hand. Are you actually thinking it's nice to meet you? Probably not. I'm just thinking, okay, this is the culture. Wow, nice to meet you. Got to wash my hands after this. Sometimes, like but it's a worker who's real dirty and sweaty and those things. Nice to meet you. You think, it's not nice to meet you. No, I am thinking that. But so we actually say things or hear things and we're not actually aware Of course, that's called Niyamagraha. We're not actually aware of what we're doing when we're doing it, and what to speak of taking it to the heart. So let's say, going back to the point about offering something, offering vogue to Krishna. When you're offering like Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami, you should be thinking, I'm offering Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya to, I'm offering my obeisances. Because what is an obeisance? What's an obeisance? Anyone know what an obeisance is?
It's respect.
Means, yeah, it's surrender. It's actually, service. It's more than respect. I respect you. I respect the policeman who stops me when I'm going too fast. I better respect him, and maybe he'll let me off. So, actually, the last time I got a ticket was 25 years ago. So, I'm clean. So, it's more than respect. It's like service. Dasos me, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would state, I'm your servant. So, I offer my obeisances, I offer myself. You can actually think like that when you're chanting Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra. Namaste Saraswati Devi. No, Nama Om, let's go to the first one again. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. You've taken shelter, Lord Vishnu's, you're very dear to Lord Vishnu. You're very, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, come to this earth planet. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami, Iti Namani. I offer you my life. So if you think like that, then there's some bhav there. And that's what Lord Kapila Deva talks about. Bhavanti Vritkarna Rasayana Kata. He says must go from the ear to the heart. Bhavanti Vritkarna. Karna, of course, means ear. Some people have said that's because Karna was born from the ear, but that's not mentioned in the Mahabharata. I mean, it's not really mentioned why he's called Karna. Karna means ear. Bhavanti Vritkarna. Vrit, of course, means like Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati. Bhavanti Vritkarna Rasayana Kata. Then it becomes extremely tasty. Then you get a ruchi, like we're talking about ruchi. Bhavanti Vritkarna Rasayana. Rasa. Ayana. So rasa means like taste. Ayana. Becomes very tasty. Kata. The sound vibration becomes very tasty. That's nice. It's a nice verse, actually, by Lord Kapila Deva. Rasayana Kata Joshan Rashopa Vargavarga Nishradagati Bhakti Anukramishati. So it's a question of taking the sound vibration to your heart. And then when you take it to your heart, the Kirtanam automatically comes, and then Vishnu Smarna comes after that. And that's bhakti. That's bhakti. And that's what differentiates bhakti yoga from karma yoga. I mean, of course, you have bhakti yoga in practice too, but the practice means that we should be taking it into our hearts, and understanding what we're chanting. Like you have so many mantras, Deity worship has so many mantras. Take it into your heart. Not only understand the meaning of it, but actually take it into your heart while you're chanting it. Anyway, and in this way, we can become steady. Another point I want to mention, just to end the class, is that when these Vishnu forms appeared, there were obviously devotees of the Vishnu forms because someone put the garlands on them. It's mentioned that they were fully decorated with fresh tender garlands of tulsi leaves offered by devotees engaged in worshiping the Lord by the greatest pious activity. So in other words, they had pujaris, these Vishnu forms. Anyway. So any questions or comments about these things? We got about 2 minutes, actually 3 minutes left for class. Yes?
I know, get to know Krishna in your heart, and
you have to be a vegetarian. I mean, in order to get...
Unless you're a bird.
Yeah.
I mean, birds are allowed to eat meat. You can have a tiger devotee who's... But for human beings, under normal circumstances, let me qualify that. Under normal circumstances, yes. I was just reading yesterday about the coldest city in the world. The average temperature in the winter is 50 below zero. It's in Russia. And no vegetables grow there. So, I think in those extenuating circumstances, you could eat some fish. So, I would say, of course, never a cow. Never a cow. But there's certain extenuating circumstances where one could be non-vegetarian. There are, I don't imagine, I was reading, it's really interesting, 50 below zero. And the only time people go outside is just to run between their house and wherever they're going. And it's so cold, they can't have toilets running water because everything's frozen for like 50, 100 feet under the ground. So the impious place, isn't it? I mean, it's like amazing Krishna's creation. But still there's living entities. Like Prabhupada said, and the Vedas say there's living entities everywhere. It's amazing. Anyway, and so in those circumstances, eat some rabbits. I'm not saying we should do that. So, yes, but generally one should be a vegetarian. Yes.
Well, that was very good.
But we should offer, not just a vegetarian, but offer your food to Krishna, yeah.
I mean, especially with the Alaskan species, the humans up there, they're like salt, on the planet. I mean, you're up north, it's so cold up there, so
Yeah.
they're up against the same situation. They have to eat fish. That's all it is.
Yeah, for them it's all right. And if we went...
Still, in one level, get to know God, or in this case, Krishna.
Yeah, they could become Krishna conscious.
But to raise my question is that, but to eat the flesh of a human being unwillingly.
The flesh of a human being?
Yes, the flesh of a human being, tortured little child.
I don't advocate that.
Because in the food that the Americans eat, they're unaware of that. A lot of them, with the major brand names of food that they're eating, a lot of cereals, I don't mention any names, they can check it out for themselves. There's baby fetuses in it.
Well, you should avoid that. You should avoid that. It's a fact that sometimes in Europe they have aborted. They do use aborted fetus as makeup. The fetal, some tissue or like that. So, yes, one should be very careful to offer only the purest things to Krishna. Purest things to Krishna. And if we went to Alaska to preach to the Eskimos, I'd have Gopi dry some vegetables and kale. You have to survive. Okay, on that happy note.